what you essentially did was stepped into a craft. You learned that craft well enough to teach it. Mm-hmm. And then you went about and created the tools that were missing for that craft, which I almost feel like, at least for most of the people that I know, that is kind of how entrepreneurship works. You kind of find something, you do it, you see gaps and missing pieces, and you've made a very seamless transition between all of these things. So I don't know. I love stepping back and kind of looking at that.
That's so fascinating, because you're right. It feels like a blueprint of most people where they do just that. And I think it's the right way of doing things. You know, it's the wrong way where you see people kind of start teaching off the bat, even though they haven't really mastered what they're doing. And you can tell the intention as well. You know, I feel like this whole conversation is about the intention, but like the intention of actually teaching, you get a sense of who they are based on at what point do they start teaching and the reasons why they teach. For me, I was always an introvert. I never really liked being in front of the camera. It was people like you and everyone else like, hey, come do an interview. Like, hey, let's talk about it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I don't really know if I should do this. And then
I don't know if I should.
But then people were telling me that they actually learned a lot, and I would love to see more. And I let the path unfold for me. I think a lot of people try to carve paths that don't exist and really, really struggle at it because they're not getting the traction they need. And sometimes that's for a good reason. Sometimes the traction's not there because maybe it's too premature. Maybe it's something that you need to come back after a certain period of time. Maybe you need more time to figure things out. And teaching was that for me. You know, I retouched for a long time. Then teaching opened up because it did so organically. And then because of teaching, I started to listen to people and the gaps that they had in their work. And I was like, wait a second, why doesn't this exist yet? And I kept searching for it, and there was no answers for years. And it just kept coming back to me. And I said, wait a second, I need to eventually do something about this, because if no one's doing something about this, I should do it. And retouching was that for me too. When I started photo retouching, I started it because there was a gap. And I noticed it because I saw magazine covers that did not look good. And I knew they didn't look good. I had the aesthetic for it because of my art background, but I just didn't know how they were doing it. There was no education. So I said, I'm going to learn it, and hopefully they like what I have to teach and why. And then the why stuck. The why came back to me, and people were like, why are you doing it this way? Why is there no information out there? Then I said, fine, there's no information out there. I'm going to be putting it out there. And that's how this whole thing happened.